Hey everyone, please ignore the fact that it's been 4 months because I'm here now. So the rumors that have been going around recently about a Persona 3 remake have all been confirmed. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, I'll give a brief summary of what happened. In early April of this year, an internal Sega video got leaked to the public. This video featured a new Jet Set Radio, Sonic Frontiers footage that featured aspects not in the original game, and of course, a Persona 3 remake. Now, it wasn't the footage of the Persona 3 remake that caught our attention, because stuff like that gets leaked all the time. It was actually the Sonic Frontiers footage that gave it away. Like I said before, it had stuff that wasn't in the original game in it. Because of this, a new Jet Set Radio and a Persona 3 remake were all but confirmed at that point. Almost exactly 2 months later, on June 8th, 2023, two games were revealed too early on the Atlas West Instagram: Persona 5 Tactica and Persona 3 Reload, baby! Nah, but for real, Persona 5 Tactica actually looks pretty cool, even though I'm not really a fan of strategy RPGs. Now, aside from the fact I would have much rather have seen the trailers at the actual Xbox showcase rather than being revealed too early on the Instagram, I was very excited for Persona 3 Reload. And after gathering my thoughts and letting my real brain do the thinking instead of my lizard brain, I was still pretty excited, but I did still feel like bringing up some things that I wanted from the remake that weren't shown in the trailer. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about what was in the trailer, what I expect from the game, and what I want to be in the game. Before we start the speculation, let's talk about what we do know. The first thing is that it looks like some 2D animated cutscenes are going to be replaced by entirely 3D ones. The second is that the entirety of the HUD has been changed, including the character portraits. Next is that the camera angle in the free roam sections has been changed to be more behind the back instead of closer to being overhead. We also see that there will be some new events. In the original Persona 3, there is never a scene where we cook with Yukari. We also know there will be at least some new music, because there's a new track played in the back. There are two big things that I took away from this trailer. The first is that Tartarus seems like it's going to be relatively close to what we have now. We see that Tartarus has at least 100 floors in the trailer. We still don't know what the floors themselves will look like, but we do know it will still be a massive labyrinth-type dungeon. And the other is that party members besides the protagonist will be manually controllable, similar to Persona 3 Portable. And that's all the important information I can gather from the trailer. If you guys notice anything else, let me know in the comments. One more thing that I noticed that doesn't necessarily have to do with the trailer is that this game will be this gen and last gen. At the end of the trailer, it showed that this game will be available for Xbox One and Series X and S separately, and we also know that there will be a Switch version because a store leaked their Switch version early. Now this sounds like there isn't too much to go on, and you would be right, but I still feel like it is worth discussing what I want to see from this game. If you guys want to see anything specific, let me know down in the comments. I want to know if I'm in the minority in the stuff that I want, or if people agree with me. And with all that out of the way, let's get started. The first thing I want is the ability to use the AI-controlled party members from Persona 3 FES. Now I know some of you are going to say, but Waz, even Personas 4 and 5 have that option if you would want to use it. And you aren't wrong for thinking that way. After all, why would Atlus purposefully degrade the AI each time between games, including their own PSP re-release of the same game? I have no idea, but they did. So I'd like to have the original AI preserved with maybe some tweaks to characters like Yukari to make her actually use multi-healing spells. The second thing I want isn't even something most people would consider, but I would really like for the cinematography choices present in the original 2D cutscenes in FES to be preserved for the remake. As I said earlier, we know at least some of the 2D cutscenes are being replaced with 3D ones. I don't think this would be a very big deal if the other modern Persona games were being remade, but for Persona 3 in particular, I think that some of the choices with the visuals in these cutscenes are really unique. A lot of these examples are later into the game, which would delve into spoiler territory, which I don't really want to get into yet, but there are a few examples from earlier in the game that I'll mention. First of which is the very first cutscene in the game, which shows the protagonist's stroll to the Iwatodai dorms. As the protagonist is taking his lovely evening stroll, the camera keeps cutting back to Yukari, then back to protagonist, but every single time it cuts to Yukari seemingly trying to, well, you know, the music gets louder and louder until she finally fails to, well, you know, and then the music is at full blast. This really amps up the intensity of the scene by contrasting the protagonist's relatively normal evening stroll with Yukari's desperation. The other is when Mitsuru is talking about the origins of the Kirijo group. Normally this would be a fairly standard exposition scene, but it is fairly striking because the entire story is told through Mitsuru's hair. These may not sound like much, but they really help Persona 3's cutscenes stand out and add to the charm of the game, and also enhance the tone. Next is a very big deal for most people, changing up Tartarus. Now, I wouldn't say that Tartarus is bad in the original P3 or that I hate it, but I wouldn't say it's very special either. Everybody who's played Persona 3 has their own way to make Tartarus either as less bad or actually fun as they can make it. Mine and a couple of my friends is that we like to do it all at once to get it out of the way, then go back to the social sim elements so that it doesn't get burnt out too quickly. Others like to split it up in the groups so they don't have to do it all at once. Either way, these strategies work for some people, which is fine. But the problem is, they don't really work for first-time playthroughs because people still have to figure out how they like it, which can lead to much frustration for new players. This is why I think Tartarus needs to be made a little bit less mindless and repetitive. Now, I'm not saying you should necessarily get rid of the randomly generated part of Tartarus, but I do think it would need to be spiced up every once in a while. Think of the 7th dungeon in Persona 4, not including Yosuke. In that dungeon, there are fun little puzzles to solve, like breaking some barriers to get down to the next floor. A few floors later, you have to get to the next floor without touching any enemies. Little challenges like these add some variety to the dungeons, which is why that dungeon is widely considered to be one of the best in the game. Tartarus can do something similar, like having a puzzle every couple floors. Or they could just completely scrap the random generation, make each block be a mini dungeon in itself. Or they could do some other third thing, I don't know. But the point is, I would like for Tartarus to be revamped. Even though we know that it's still going to be a massive labyrinth, you can still revamp it plenty within that format. These last few things creep into spoiler territory, so if you haven't played or even finished Persona 3, please click off now. Before you go, consider leaving a like and a sub, it really helps out small channels like me. Alright, we good? Let's get started. The next thing I want is for the general tone to be preserved for the final act of the game and the journey. We saw in the trailer that Persona 3 Reload is going for a more bright and saturated color palette than the original game. I think this is fine, except for the final act in the game. For those who need a refresher for this part of the game, in January, the cult that Strega started regarding the fall has spread basically everywhere, and everyone is basically just waiting for the fall. There are posters and graffiti everywhere, the colors are more washed out, and everyone seems to be relatively apathetic towards life at this point. This period of Persona 3 is one of the most atmospheric times in any Atlus game I've ever played, and I would hate for it to be muted by the more flashy look that the game is headed towards. The last thing I want is for the ending of the base game to be completely untouched. Persona 3's ending is, and I don't use this word often, perfect for the game's story and themes. Everything from Aigis completing her character arc with that powerful speech.
I realize now that I have friends as well. You don't have to save the world to find meaning in life. Sometimes, all you need is something simple, like someone to take care of. I'll keep on living no matter what, so that I can protect you. Thank you for everything. You must be tired. Please, get some rest. I'll stay right here with you.
To the protagonist keeping his promise and finding his purpose, protecting his friends even at the cost of his own life. I'm not going to get super specific because I plan on making reviews on both Persona 3 and Persona 3 Reload once it comes out, but this ending means so much to so many people. Keeping the protagonist alive would not only dampen the themes of the game, but also disappoint so many people who had come to play this game after playing the original. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Like I said earlier, please let me know if you agree or disagree with these, and leave your own wishlist down there too. I would love to see different perspectives on one of my favorite games. As for future projects, my next video is going to be on modern Persona dungeon design. I know I said I would cover the Persona 3 movies, but I don't want to do 3 exclusively Persona 3 videos in a row, so that will come later. That's all from me. Have a great summer, and see you next time.